Hey there, internet friends. Of course, as always, my name is Zach Kinsella. This is Toy Art, where we're going to take a deep dive into the art of action figures and toys. Today, we are going into one of my favorite TV shows ever, Robotech, aka in the Japanese, Super Dimensional Fortress Macross, or Macross for short, as I'm going to be saying throughout this whole video. So, I understand the history. It's three shows put together to create one big crazy American show. They're all three different shows as well too. Somehow they made a continuity out of it. I'm not saying it's the greatest, but it is one of my favorites. As a child of the 80s, that was one of my favorite shows ever. It still is. It was my gateway to anime, my gateway to see like the art styles of people like such as Leiji Matsumoto, who also did Galaxy Express 999, one of my favorite shows. Those big bouffant hair, crazy anime exaggeration that I just love so much in my own cartooning as well. So we'll talk about two figures. There's a Rick Hunter and Lisa Hayes, or Hikaru and Misa, if you're more into the Japanese side of things. Got a few photos up over here that you can take a look at. I'll definitely have some more later on to show you, but let's talk about these figures right quick, huh? Okay, awesome. I wanted to start this video out with a size comparison, simply because I wanted y'all to see and have just like an idea of like what the G.I. Joes look like next to the Matchbox Robotech figures, because essentially, you know, they're very similar, but there are differences. Joes are a little bit bulky, a little bit taller in scale for the most part. You know, as you come in and see, like I chose old creepy ass mustache Uncle Rock Viper here, and he's actually a favorite character of mine growing up. In the G.I. Joe line, there's something about that visor that I just think is hilarious. Oh, too much exposure. All right, so like I said, they're a little bit bulkier. They are military / sci-fi stuff, so just wanted y'all to get like an idea of what they look like. One of the things to know is if you do actually go in for these Matchbox figures, they don't fit any of the modern like peg hole stands for our figures like the G.I. Joes do. So star stands, all that kind of stuff doesn't fit Robotech. Just be warned. I'm going to remove our friend the Rock Viper, then we're going to focus solely on Rick and Lisa here. Boop. There it goes over there. All right, so let's take a look, right? So one thing to know is, like, you know, Rick is shorter than Lisa, of course. But the one thing I really wanted to get out into this discussion is that these are, as a retro figures, quote unquote, or classic figures, whatever you want to call them, right? They are much more simple. They're small, they're simple, they're meant to be played with. These are in pretty fantastic shape. I lucked into them at a local comic shop here, and I got them like 2 of them for like $16. It was ridiculous. So just want to give that a preface that this isn't like, there's not much to deep dive into with these figures. So with that, I'm going to pull up Rick first and then Lisa. You'll notice there's a size difference, which is canon to the show, because Rick starts out as a teenage kid, right? Lisa, being a full-formed adult, will have a few inches on him. Couple things to notice is that their hair, the biggest difference from the TV to, that's my cat, the difference from the TV to the figures is the hair. Robotech mainly influenced by Leiji Matsumoto's art style with big, bouffant, puffy hair. and little curly bobs like Princess Leia kind of had in Star Wars. So neither of those are long. They are meant to fit inside helmets, which I did not get with these figures. So just a couple things if you're noticing differences from the cartoons to the figures here and why that looks like that. It's like they had to account for figures' helmets, and there was no head swapping back in the day. The only time you'd be able to swap a head is if one accidentally broke off, and you're like, well, I just got to super glue this bad mamma jamma back on. So I'm going to bring Rick forward. Like I said, they don't stand too well. Here, Rick also has a weird thing going on with his hips, where he's got like, they kind of like spread out. He also is going to have some real bad back problems if he ever was a real person, right? So I can't like push him back. But it is what it is. So looking at him, he has like the, I'll just do a turnaround here of him. You'll see like he has some pretty wide hips, like he ready to give birth kind of hips. So but the figures are extremely accurate to the show Robotech. They have the big tall 1970s style collars, which is kind of crazy for a show that takes place in 1999, right? But also like the whole costume is accurate down to Rick's costume in Robotech as well. You'll see like the blue stripe down the side is only interrupted by that bolt in the arm for the articulation coming around. Like he has like the exact specifics of what you would see in Robotech. It's pretty awesome. He's a pretty damn like accurate character. I'll bring him close so you can see the sculpt of the head. So what's kind of difficult, I think, with these characters is like anime is so simple. Whoop, there she goes. Anime is so simple, but also it's difficult to capture simplicity. So they did a really fantastic job with what they're working at right here. It doesn't really like look like Rick, but he's also an animated character. So it's a little tough to grasp that from 2D to 3D, especially like 30 something years ago, right? But we have a really nice, they really tried to grab that. I'm going to have to peel him back just a hair here and sit him up so I can hold him a little easier. What's nice is that, like, you know, he has a really defined sculpt for that hair. It looks good. It looks anime inspired. They didn't, like, his eyes are a little bit smaller than I would have liked if we were talking like anime. I was like, let's go nuts, man. But otherwise, things to notice inside this character that I really dig is that, like I said, it's very smooth, very simple. Like, that's kind of how Star Wars figures were. That's how G.I. Joe's figures were at the beginning. Not a whole lot of detail. There's a little bit of like folds right over here, right where he's going to sit. He's like, his belt is fully detailed. What's kind of crazy is like it's tough to see, but like they have little teeth right down on their boots there. So you can see that. There's also just some folding, right? The only times they were like putting in some detail or folds is really when they were like, you know, this is where the character would stand like where its joints would bend. And that's really it. You know, you see like the boot comes up right to the thigh, but you don't see any seams. Right? It's all smooth. Which, you know, for the style of the time. And around the back, the only thing I'm like kind of curious about is like why, there's only like this white belt back here and not the black. And then like I think mine are newer ones because there's no gray detailing right over here. There's supposed to be like light gray right there. So that's Rick. The other thing I really thought was kind of cool was like his like watch design on both ends, like his wrist communicators. Have some pretty damn nice detail to them. And same with like inside the palm. Right? So, but otherwise he's very smooth. Those seams like are the black lines are on their outside. They're not seams per se. They are decor. All right, and one little line in the back. Like I'm not sure what their backpacks looked like. So I was gonna hunt around eBay or Mercari soon. If anyone knows where I can find them, point them my way. Let's stand Rick back over here. And we'll bring Lisa up to the front. Lisa has a little bit more detail. Which, like I said, she kind of has more of like a bob cut rather than her full hair coming down here. But again, with the limitations of the day, you're just not going to see that. They missed some of the paint inside, like right where her hair parts, so that drives me a little bit crazy. But otherwise, they got the hair sculpt down. It looks great. Like they only had used one color, and I think that really shows and stands out. Lets the sculpting of a figure stand out. You can see how shiny they are too. I love how white and shiny these figures are. I have a Storm Shadow, and he is like definitely like cream colored at this point and not white, just from sun exposure. These do not have that issue. You'll see a nice high collar at the front, the stripes. So there's a little wear on those stripes right there in the chest, but that is like where since she's female, like there's accentuation there, but it's not like Lady Death, like overkill, right? There's some right in the waist, some folds right where she would sit. But again, everything else is extremely smooth until you get down to the boots. That's where things bend. There's not a whole lot of detail on the legs. The backpack has a nice little detail. I was like, this is a very utilitarian backpack. I kind of wonder if like these parts up here like should have been painted, but it's all good at dropping things. But it's all part of one piece. I would have liked to have seen like a little bit of color, more decoration, more color there, but this is 30 something 40 years ago at this point. So her wrist do not have communicators on there. She just has like those classic like wrist guards on over here. So again, not a whole lot to deep dive, but I really just want to speak to how like cool I think of a figure set these two are. Matchbox went with a very simple style for them, but they stand out from G.I. Joe in that they use a much different form of plastic for it to make for like them to be shiny, just like in the anime. Those uniforms always came off looking like they were like very high polished, hard armor / jumpsuits. And since there's never been a live action interpretation, I don't think you'll ever, come close. But if they do make something live action, I would really love to see them pay homage to these classic uniforms because they're iconic. They're wonderful to look at, and these figures are fantastic. If you can track them down, they're well worth it. Like I said, mine were only a few bucks each. Under $20 for two classic vintage figures. They were reproduced by Harmony Gold, originally made by Matchbox. I kind of want to get one of the Valkyries for them to sit in, but like that's a bit expensive. But like I said, not a whole lot to deep dive into with these two characters. I love them. Super stoked they're part of my collection, and I hope you guys enjoyed my first dive into the land of retro here on Toy Art. So they're super simple. Very simple, and that's what I kind of love about them. Sometimes being simple is the best way to approach an artistic project or something that you're willing to put all your heart into when you're drawing. Sometimes it's just easier, but most of the time it's a lot harder to be simple, to be honest with you. So don't think that it was an easy task, because they probably wanted to put a lot of creases and folds, and production was like, ooh, we got to keep these molds simple. I don't know. I'm just supposing. So we'll see. Maybe I'll have an update if someone reaches out to me and knows more about this. So, of course, comments, likes, notifications, jump in on all that, but really I'd love for y'all to share this. If you know someone who loves action figures or toys, or is just curious about art and design in general, point them to my channel. There's something for everyone here. If you have comments of suggestions of what you would love to see, I'm here for it. Let me know. Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.